house of lame, house of blues. They ought to call it the house of lame white motherfuckers. Inauthentic, low-frequency, single-digit, lame white motherfuckers. Especially these male movie stars who think they're blues artists. You ever see these guys? Don't you just want to puke in your soup with one of these fat, balding, overweight, overaged, out-of-shape, middle-aged male movie stars with sunglasses jumps on stage and starts blowing into a harmonica? It's a fucking sacrilege. In the first place, white people got no business playing the blues ever. At all, under any circumstances, ever. What the fuck do white people have to be blue about? Banana Republic ran out of khakis? Huh? The espresso machine is jammed? Hootie and the Blowfish are breaking up? Shit, white people ought to understand their job is to give people the blues, not to get them. And certainly not to sing or play them. Tell you a little secret about the blues. It's not enough to know which notes to play. You got to know why they need to be played. And another thing, I don't think white people should be trying to dance like blacks. Stop that. Stick to your faggoty polkas and waltzes. And that repulsive country line dancing shit that you do. And be yourself, be proud, be white, be lame, and get the fuck off the dance floor. Now, I thank you. Now, listen. Long as we're discussing minorities, I'd like to mention something about language. There are a couple of terms being used a lot these days by guilty white liberals. First one is happens to be. He happens to be black. I have a friend who happens to be black. Like it's a fucking accident, you know? Happens to be black. Yes, he happens to be black. Oh, yeah. He had 2 black parents? Oh, yes, he did. Yes, that's right. And they fucked? Oh, indeed they did. So where does the surprise part come in? I should think it would be more unusual if he just happened to be Scandinavian. And the other term is openly gay. They'll say, he's openly gay. But that's the only minority they use that for. You know, you wouldn't say someone was openly black. Well, maybe James Brown. Or Louis Farrakhan. Louis Farrakhan is openly black. Colin Powell is not openly black. Colin Powell is openly white. He just happens to be black. Okay.
Okay, I thought I'd add a little humor, but it's, you know, obviously some truth there. If anyone knows that comedian George Carlin, he actually transitioned. But he talked about a lot of social issues, and, you know, forgive his vulgarity. I'm not an advocate of that kind of language, but I thought it was, you know, if you listen to a lot of his comedic, I guess his comedic performances, he deals a lot of social issues, and he talks a lot about the injustice of the government and the corporations and how they're controlling the people and manipulating the people, and I think it's fitting for this discussion that we're going to get in today, because today we're going to continue our discussion about the 9-ball series that the master teacher wrote, which was, he wrote this particular series over 50 years ago in 1971. And I think it was relevant 50 years ago, and it's still relevant today. And it's talking about the conditions of that we as a black people living under racism, white supremacy, or I should say global racism, white supremacy. And so it's important. So there's, again, like I said, this was a 4-part series. Last week we dealt with the part 1, which is dealing with non-ether, and today we're going to deal with part 2 of that series, which is dealing with 6 ether. So, like every week, we're going to get started. For those who do not know me, my name is Petty Sina Teptu Re'e, and I've been over a 30-year student teacher of the profound doctrine of the master teacher, known to us as Panabab Yananan, also known as Dr. Malachi Z.K. York, who has been teaching us our ancient culture. We identify as Wu-Sabat, also known as Wu-Nawab. And it basically means those who make decisions based on sound right reasonability, living according to the principles of Ma'at, based on the wisdom of the Hutui. It's an African science that our ancestors lived by. In essence, what it is, it's about, we lived in harmony with natural nature. That's what really it meant. We lived in harmony with natural nature, as opposed to the cultures we live in today. Under European cultures, Western culture, their culture is based on and being adverse to natural nature. And so we argue the reason why Black people around the globe are suffering and dealing with the challenges that they're dealing with is due to their reasonability, or the decisions. They're choosing to live a culture or cultures that are adverse to them. They're choosing to live cultures that does not reason out. It's actually in their best interest. It's detrimental to their lifestyle. And we're saying the only way Black people can get back to the greatness of our glory when we ruled as a people is to get back to the cultures that allowed us to become rulers again. Because trying to live foreign cultures, obviously it's not going to work for us. It's not in our best interest. And that's what we're teaching. That's what the master teacher has dedicated his life to teaching. And us as student teachers have dedicated our life to re-educating our people why we should get back to our ancient cultures. So this is what we do each and every week. And I'm just one of many students around the globe who is teaching this information to our people. So again, this is what our focus is. So as we do each week, we start our discussions, our class, and in our language, and Sabian is called fasal. Class means fasal. That's how we say class. And so we started with namaz, prayer. Prayer in our language means, it's the word namaz. So we start namaz with or start fasal, our class, with namaz, as we do each week. And that's important because the prayer systems that we do is for the purpose of helping us develop ourselves spiritually. Again, the prayer systems that we do is designed to help ourselves develop ourselves spiritually. So we go from a prayer system into a chant system into a meditative system. And it is about learning to recalibrate our bodies, learning to correct what we call our morphic resonant energy, our morphic genetic field. We have to recalibrate that. And once we learn how to recalibrate our morphic genetic field, this is what allows us or gives us the ability to be able to make contact with our ancestors who exist on higher dimensions. And so you have to learn how to alter or correct your morphic field. Okay. And prayer system is how you do that. It basically recalibrates your genetics. And the chanting, as well as the meditation systems, all of these things are necessary to help you recalibrate your genetics. So we're gonna get into our prayer system. So let me switch over to that as we do each week. And for those who are new and not familiar with it, if you see our prayer system, we have it in our Lahaj, our language, which is Sabian, right? As well as English. So you can follow along in the English as I'm reading it in our Lahaj, which means language, is Sabian. So you guys can definitely follow along, okay? And we're gonna go from there. Abdul Kalam Namasat Wubazun Amad Kasam and Fa Pa Paut. Anuki Jawef Pa Ashuk M Pa Paut. Wu Kala Ashuk Kawun Jawef Naya. Anuki Kasamun M Pa Paut. Wu Pa Paut Kawun Kasamun M Naya. Anuki Wahu Ama Pa Paut. Wu Pa Paut Kawun Wahu Ama Naya. Naku Kudor Naju Amad Kasamun M Pa Paut. Wu Khabu Amad Shikasun. Naku Kodor Kawan Kalab Pafaf Naku Daya Jaweb Pa Paot. Amar Wasu Amar Daya Nikun Lake Bakui Jaweb Pa Paot. Anuki Yababi Nafasni. Pa Paot Kawun. Anuki. Pa Paot Kodor. Naku Kodor. Pa Paot Amu. Nakuk Amu. Lahehum Manahnun. Layahum Manahnun. Ahumata Karehum. Ahumata Korekum, Ahumata Korenun, Ahumata Joefnaya, Ahumata Nayawu Anuki hum, Ye Ashukore, Asmua Jayenun, Ye Unatharu Afuknun, Anunata Kharaukum, Ye Unatharu Afuknun, 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 Ye Unatharu Nun, Anun, Atun, Atun, Amun. Namazo Awahu, Ye Umufaku, Yehu, Yehu, Ye Unataru, Yesaya, Yesaya, Ye Unataru, Yehika, Yehika, Ye Unataru, and Kum Ata Pa Mufaku, Yehu, Yehu, Ye Unataru, and Kum Ata Pa Mufaku, Wu Anu Ata Kharaukum, Wu Ankum Ata Yasanun, Yehu, Yehu, Ye Unataru, Akfush Buklash Num, Atum Re, Yehu, Yehu, Ye Unataru, Namazo Atu, Akfush Enhu, Ye Mutamu, Akfutnun, Enkum Mana Yakad Laduda Salafunun, Wu Yasaunun, Mana Yakad Sawura Pa Ba, Yama, Mana Yakad Kawuna Ka'u, Mana Yakad Ata Acha, Mana Yakad Kawuna Basha Wu Damam, Ye Nataru Muktam Unun, Akfush Muftad Nun, Enhu Kawun Manzal Mana Pa Nataru, Akfush Enhu, Enhu Kawun Baba Yananun, Akfush Enhu, Enhu Kawun Atum Ra'e, Akfush Enhu, Enhu Kawun Khafush, Namazo Talu, Ye Nataru Salafunun, Akfuk Nun Mana Pa Mujwa'u, Akfuk Nun Mana Tag Huan, Ye Nataru Akfuk Nun, Mana Sayag Khayara, Akfuk Nun, Akfuk Naya, Akfuk Nun, Akfuk Naya, Ye Unataru Nun, Namazo Rabu, Pa Tashun, Nakuk Talub Tashun Bi Pa Nataru, Mana Pa Laen Lawi Tananu, Kalaranum Atni Atalaya Pa Nataru, Wu Kala Namazo Atni Atalaha Kayat Yatun Laya Pa Nataru, Pa Sawat Wu Pa Tara. Panan Safa Kawun, Pasara Wu Patara. Z Kawuna Nazula Laha Enkum, Mana Saba'at Wu Sa'at, Ama Hade Enun, Wu Shafe'un, Mana Salafukum, Wu Nataru, Ajula Yana Fasukum, Afuk Shana Kawunkum, Pasawa Wu Patara, Pa Hadean Wu Pa Shafe, and Nun Tawa Enkum, Laha Panan Shafe Wu Alaj, and Nun Tawa Enkum Laha Tim Nasuinum, and Nun Tawa Enkum Laha Ashukuma, and Kum Ata Salafunun, and Nun Ata Kharaukum, and Nun Talub Nasa Kuma, and Nun Talub Nasa Kuma, and so Nun Sayim Nataru, and so Nun Salafunun, and Nun Ata Munwapo, Anun Atun Atun Amun. Ye Unataru Nun, Ye Muftau, Ye Nataru, Ye Atum Re, Ye Natar, Ye Nun, Ye Natar, Ye Nutat, Ye Natata, Ye Ha, Ye Natar, Ye Hatat, Ye Natata, Ye Kak, Ye Natar, Ye Kaktat, Ye Natata, Ye Mun, Ye Natar, Ye Muntat, Ye Natata. Ye Umafkamo Ye, Ye Nataru, Ye Atum Ye Natar, Ye Shawak Ye Natar, Ye Tafaf Tat Ye Natata, Ye Sabab Ye Natar, Ye Natat Ye Natata, Yash Tat Ye Natata, Ye Asa Ye Natar, Ye Nabab Ta Hatat Ye Natata, Ye Satak Ye Natar, Ye Hara Ye Natar. Natara Shalil Pa Meye, Ye Haptu Ye Natar, Ye Naptat Ye Natata, Ye Ha Haratu Ye Natar. Natara Shalil Pa Nawar, Ye Nafatum Ye Natar, Ye Mantu Ye Natar, Ye Babti Ye Natar, Ye Sakhem Tat Ye Natata. Yahata harata yanatata, ye baai bish yanata, ye fa yanata, ye basa yanatata, ye emhata yanata. The Tara Shalil Pa Hawaii, ye enhu yanata, ye mata yanatata, ye mahat yanatata, ye khafre re yanata, ye mishkanat yanatata, ye rayeta yanatata, ye khantimiti yanata, ye hika yanatata, ye natata yanatata, ye maat yanatata, Ye Ranenta, Yanatata, Yashe, Yanatata, Yasasha, Yanatata, Yamafta, Yanatata, Natara Shilil Pataha, Yesabak Yanata, Yanat Yanata, Ye Hanum Yanata, Ye Hanash Yanata, Ye Fanun Yanata, Yesaya Yanata, Ye Hakta Yanatata, Ye Amash Yanata, Ye Suratu Yanata, Ye Atum Re Yanatata, Ye Tahutu Yanata, Ye Fawrat Yanatata, Ye Sakata Yanatata, Ye Ha Yanata, Ye Nahe Ka'a Yanata, Ye Saka Yanata, Ye Ba'a Yanata, Ye Aka Yanata, Ye Imharata Yanatata, Ye Wupabata Yanata, Ye Sakahatapta Yanatata, Ye Merita Sakata Yanatata, Ye Sayeta Yanatata, Ye Karata Yanatata, Ye Sa Inu Yanata, Ye Bahata Yanatata, Ye Khananta Yanatata, Ye Manakta Yanatata, Ye Khamam Yanata, Ye Mahatwa Yanata, Ye Kabeb Sinana Faf Yanata, Ye Da Mata Afaf Yanata, Ye Merita Yanatata, Ye Nasat Yanata, Ye Mdata Yanatata, Ye Nakhakbata Yanatata, Ye Sakhata Yanatata, Ye Nakta Yanatata, Ye Dada Yanata, Ye Tum Yanata, Ye Wahu Yanata, Ye Yasas Yanata, Ye Nako Yanata, Ye Afton Yanata, Ye Satat Yanatata, Ye Sakatu Yanata, Ye Ma'at Yanata, Ye Nana Yanata, Ye Noet Yanata, Ye Sataktu Yanata, Ye Mukdalta Yanatata, Ye Rahashafaf Yanata, Ye Maratu Yanata, Ye Mun Re Yanata, Yehu Anun Ata Kalej Jawef Paut Nun Re Tun Re Tun Re Mun Re Jennifer. Okay. So for those who are not familiar with our prayer systems, and like I said, we go from prayer, then we go into a chant system, right? And then after the chant system, you're supposed to go into a meditated system where you go into complete silence, because you now basically you calibrated your body, your cells, you got yourself completely calm and put yourself in a harmonious and a serenity state. And that's when you can go into that meditated state. So it's a process, right? And so these are the steps that we take to begin to recalibrate ourselves and to develop ourselves, spiritually. All right. So that's important. Okay. Let's see. From who? First of all, Rahul back to everyone. Rahul back to everyone. So that's what's up. Definitely always want to send out peace and blessings to all. And who's the question from? I don't see it. What does it say? It says, how can you use 9 knowledge? Oh, I see it. Okay, peace. Question. How can we use 9 knowledge to grow economically? I have read the book of Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich. I have seen many similarities in Wu-Sabat, especially with the wisdom of Tahuti. Okay, that's an interesting question. Okay, all right. Wow, Napoleon Hill. Okay. Okay, so the concept that he's teaching is it's a sound concept insofar as riches and wealth does start in the mind, right? You know, riches and wealth does start in the mind to in essence to you know, to develop oneself to put yourself in a certain mind state when you're dealing with economics. Now, we don't, let me just say this. We do not use the nine mind insofar as to try to gain riches. Let me make that very clear. We don't use the nine mind insofar as to gain riches. We use the nine mind to gain liberation. We use the nine mind to gain liberation, not wealth, but to gain liberation. And in liberation, you gain wealth. In liberation, you gain wealth, right? And so we don't use the nine mind for those purposes. We use the nine mind to liberate ourselves, because that's really what the issue is. It's the fact that the European systems control all the levers of wealth, and the only way we're really going to begin to build wealth is to begin to liberate ourselves from them. Okay, and so that's step one. Now, we all are dealing with economic situations and economic conditions and challenges. Everyone's situation may be different depending on where you live and your circumstances, which would determine your economic development. So, how to give someone advice when it comes to, you know, developing themselves economically will be different depending on a person's skill set, where they live, and the conditions in which they live in, and the level of knowledge they already have. So that's important to really understand. So that's a really difficult question to answer because of that simple fact, because of where one's conditions are. So, you know, I will say this: when it comes to earning money, money is obviously developed in several ways. One way is you got to work for someone, you make money that way. Another way is you are given money, and you can be given money through inheritance. You can be given money through winning it, like a lotto or something like that. You can be given money just by somebody giving you money. But someone giving you money is another way of earning, you know, getting money. Someone working for it is another way of getting money, and the other way is a business, right? You can start a business, and that's another way of getting money. And obviously, to build wealth, the only way people really build wealth in this world is through businesses. And the type of business is relative to where you live, the conditions that you live in, and the certain situations. Now, Black people, we have, and we're going to touch on this, but we have so many opportunities to build wealth and to make money due to just, you know, within our own culture. But a lot of us don't really understand our culture, and we don't understand how to take advantage of our culture economically. And this is something we're trying to educate our people on. So in answering that and trying to answer that question, because that's a difficult question to answer, because like I said, we don't focus on wealth building per se. What we focus on is liberation, and in liberation, you're going to build wealth. That's just a fact. And we will get into that, but each individual situation is different. So I can't really, you know, address. I can only talk about it in a vague context when it comes to wealth building. So, you know, I'll leave it at that for now. Okay, another question from Allison. Let's see. When we get to the point into the teachings, can 6 ether resurrect to become 9 ether? Okay, I'm not sure. I'm not sure about what that question is saying. when we get to the point into the teachings. Okay. When we get to the point of into the teachings, can six ether resurrect to become nine ether? Okay, let me do it like this. If I can understand that somewhat, I'll take it from this way. Black people today on the planet Earth are influenced through six ether, right? So our decisions are influenced through six ether. Our goal is to resurrect Black people from making decisions from a six ether mentality back into a nine ether mentality. So that's the whole goal, is to develop what we call the divine mind, which is what the brother asks about nine knowledge, right? The goal is to harness nine. Well, I said this at the end of the class last week when I finished the discussion in the nine ball in part one, the very last paragraph, the very last sentence. This is very important, guys. The very last sentence says, and this is in part one of the book I read, it says nine ether develops. Hold on, because let me share my screen because you guys can't see. So I want you guys to see this. And okay. Now you guys will be able to see my screen. Okay. So this is paragraph 37. This is the nine ball series part one, and the very last paragraph, very last sentence, and it says the nine ether develops the nine mind. Nine ether develops the nine reason. Nine reason develops nine knowledge, and nine knowledge develops the nine mind power, which is prerequisite to Ethiopian mental and physical liberation. So that is the whole basis of our whole doctrine. That's the whole basis of everything the master teacher has been teaching us since he's been here. And I'll repeat it again. Nine ether develops nine reason. What is nine ether? Nine ether are the actual creative forces that grew the universe. Nine ether are actually the creative forces that grew the universe. So it's very important. So nine ether develops nine reasons. So that's why we teach spiritual development, to learn how to harness nine ether energy into your body. You do the ritual so you can harness nine ether energy into your body. As you're developing nine ether energy into the body, that develops nine reason. It enhances your reasonability, guys. It will enhance your reasonability. Okay? I'm telling you this as an actual fact. From my own personal experience, it enhances your reasonability, right? So now, as you're developing nine reason now, your nine reason will develop nine knowledge, where you now begin to get thoughts and concepts you didn't get before. You're going to start getting ideas and concepts you never got before. You're going to start being able to actually figure out a lot of the things, the tricks that the Mukasu, the Caucasian, has put on us, and you'll begin to figure out how to get around those tricks and traps. You're becoming more, your level of awareness and perceptions will actually increase. Trust me, it will increase. So nine ether develops the nine reason, right? And your nine reason is what gives you nine knowledge. And once you have nine knowledge, that develops what we call the nine mind power. So that is how you'll be able to make better decisions, is what the whole essence of our whole doctrine is, what we're trying to teach our people to do, is to resurrect them mentally. And this is the process. Okay. So I hope that one helped. Hold on. And so okay, so let's see. Allison, question. I was asking this question ahead of time. Is there such a thing of a good a good white person? Okay. So, we've been asked that question obviously since we've been teaching this doctrine. Okay, so you got to understand, it's not about so much good or bad. That's not what we're teaching, right? we're not teaching that people are good or teaching people who are bad. What we're actually teaching, you have those who are agreeable and those who are disagreeable. Those who are agreeable live in harmony with natural nature. And we call that NoopooH, Noon, Wu-Nawat, Wu-Sabat. Those who choose to live in harmony with natural nature. And then you have those who disagree, who are disagreeable, who do not want to live in harmony with natural nature. And when you look at the history of the Caucasian race, the Mukasu race, you look at their history going back 6,000 years, they have lived a culture of complete disagreeableness to nature. That's just the history of the race. And so and we're saying that because of the simple fact of the spirit forces that incarnate into the Caucasian body are 6 ether spirits who don't have the same level of reasonability as a 9 ether spirit does. Remember, 9 ether spirit forces is what grew the universe itself. And so the 9 ether forces are dealing at a high level of reasonability. The 6 ether forces don't have the same level of reasonability. And so a lot of their decisions that they make are destructive. Even when they're trying to do good, they're doing bad because of the simple fact that they're not in tune with nature itself. They're just not in tune. So in their eyes, when they create GMO foods, they think that's a good thing because they're saying, we create more foods. We're able to produce more food to feed people, to help people, to, help with hunger, so on and so forth. But while they're trying to do good, they're really doing bad because GMO foods alter your morphic frequency. It actually takes you out of harmony with nature. And that's the problem. Because they're not naturally connected to nature itself, they continue to make decisions that are adverse to nature, which lets you know as a race, they should not be ruling. That's really what we're trying to say. They should not be ruling the planet because when they rule the planet, they put the planet under adverse and chaotic conditions because of how they make decisions. That's the problem with the Caucasian as a race. So I hope that, I hope that helps. Okay. Question from Zamal. And when we resurrect, what do the tablets mean by Armageddon will begin at the beginning of the moon cycle? And are we in those days now? Armageddon is the war between the righteous versus the unrighteous. And yes, that war has begun with the birth of the master teacher and the opening of the 7th seal in 1970 was the prime beginning of the war on Armageddon because now righteousness has hit the planet. And those who represent righteousness, meaning the right knowledge, those who have been teaching the facts, have been at war with those who have been concealing the facts. And that war is going to get, it's going to reach a climax. And that's why you got black people constantly fighting against what? Racism, white supremacy. And it's going to get more and more intense. And you got white people fighting back. And that's the war of Armageddon. The righteous versus the unrighteous. And then it's going to heat up. And it's going to get more intense, guys. More intense. Okay, question. Caucasians are 3 ether or 6 ether? Caucasians are 3 ether ghosts, right? But remember, ghosts comes from 6 ether, right? Ghosts, spirit forces come from 6 ether. So when we say, look at I had the SMAT circle up, and you see the SMAT circle, right? And the ghost cycle is on the bottom at 3 south, okay? But the whole cycle itself is Zupul, and Zupul are 6 ether spirit forces, aka Leviathan. So the ghost spirit forces represent Leviathan, aka they represent the 6 ether mind of destruction. The ghost spirit forces is just the spirit forces within Zupul that their science is based on death. Their science is based on destruction, right? And Zupu is the zodiac. Exactly. I'm glad you brought that up, because the zodiac, if you notice, like in ancient Egypt, the Egyptian civilization was based on the zodiac. That's why you always see those zoomorphic characters in ancient Kemet. And a lot of people don't realize dynastic Egypt, most of the people, most of our ancestors were under the spell during dynastic Egypt, which is why you see all of those animal deities and spirit forces that they identified with, which is why we teach people you have to begin to educate yourself about pre-dynastic Egypt. That's when the Tahites were ruling. And that's a whole nother subject matter. But I just wanted to touch on it a little bit. What do you say? Yeah, I just did. Okay, so question from, let's see, T Tiger. If we were 9 ether spirits before we came here to this planet, why would we come here only to struggle to get back to no. Okay, look at this map, guys. And this is why I tell everybody, God, you got to watch the lecture series we did on the African science of existence, parts 1, part 2, part 3, part 4. If you watched it, watch it again. Okay. This is key. Now, so here's the thing. When a universe comes into existence, it comes into existence by the way of 9 ether forces. When a universe comes into existence, it comes into existence by the way of 9 ether forces. Okay. And we're going to get into how do we wind up being here when 6 ether is taken over. That's what today's discussion is going to be on. So let me get into that. Let me get into that, and then I can, we'll address you. We'll go. You guys ask your questions, right? But let me get into today's lesson, and then we can, maybe it'll give some clarity to some of the questions you have, and then I can revisit those discussions, right? So, real quick before we get into lessons, because I didn't even get into the principles of Wu-Sabat. For those who are new, we live by specific core principles that all of you guys must be familiar with. And for those who are familiar with the core principles, you guys must master and understand all of these core principles. That's why, if you notice, our discussions and our lectures are based around these core principles, because you guys must learn to embody these things. And so, Hapshasit Ma'at or A, definitely ask your question. I'll definitely get to you, dear. So you could. So now going back to the core principles that we live by, Wu-Sabat, Wu-Nawak. Principle number 1 is Ashak, right? And Ashak is dealing with the power of love. Ashak is actually 9 ether forces. Ashak is the 9 ether force. So that's very important for you guys to understand. Principle number 2 is resurrection, becoming goddesses and gods by opening your third eye. Once you learn to open your third eye, your powers will be restored. Your 9 mind will be totally restored, and you'll be one with your oversoul. Okay. Goal number 3, the wisdom of Dahutri and Ma'at. Dahutri stands for our divine mind, the 9 mind, and Ma'at stands for universal order. We live according to universal order as 9 ether beings. Principle number 4, relationships. We live of, for, and by each other. We did a discussion on that, right? The concept of Ubuntu that you learn about in South Africa. As African people, we didn't live based on capitalism. We live based on live of, for, and by each other. So that's important. Principle number 5, morphic resonance / matrix, right? Morphic resonance is dealing with sound, color, vibration, frequencies, and matrix is dealing with the materials that are created by these morphic frequencies. Number 6, soul and spirit. Your soul is your emotional body. Your spirit is your life force. We did a discussion on that. Number 7, Leviathan equals moon culture, aka religion, aka Western culture. Number 8, health, right? Health starts with a positive mind. Sunlight, water, drinking a lot of water, fasting, having a herbal diet, exercising, rhythmic breathing, meditation exercises, concentration exercises, prayer, and chant. All of that is a prerequisite for health, because health is not just physical, but it's also spiritual, guys. And number 9 is Pa'ut, which stands for the creative force. And the Spa'at, the creative force existence, is based on cycles, which is the Sma'at, and which is the ether energies that grew the universe. That goes from the 9 ether, and it drops down to 6 ether, which is what we're going to be talking about today, guys. And then once you acknowledge yourself as a Sabaean, you have goals. The goals of a Sabaean, right? The goals of Wu-Sabat. 1 is to raise yourself. 2 is to fight Leviathan. 3 is to work to build Sabbatia. Okay, so going back, goal number 1, raising the self. You must become born again, as Christians teach. Study our doctrine every day, guys. You must practice and master our daily rituals. These rituals are daily. And go upstairs, see if you can hear. You guys can't hear me? Checking 1, 2, 3. Can you guys press 1 if you guys can hear me? Can you guys hear me? Oh, okay. All right, my bad. All right, good. You guys can hear me. I had to make sure. Okay, so, okay, good. You guys can hear. All right. So I don't know what you guys missed. I don't what I was saying. I don't know what you guys missed, but So what I was talking about was okay, we went into the 9-ball count 2, right? We're in a 9-ball count 2. Last week we did 9-ball count 1, right? So that's important. We did 9-ball count 1. And today we're doing 9-ball count 2, and we're going to do commentary on this particular book. So let's get started. Okay, paragraph 1. In count 1 of the booklet called The 9-Ball, we Ethiopian scientists briefly introduce the Ethiopian to him or herself, which is 9. Of course, the Ethiopian race includes all people with genuinely kinky hair by nature. However, in this introduction, we shall introduce the Ethiopian to 6. First, note that the digit 6 is the digit 9 upside down. That is, it's 9 reverse. And this means that 6 is the opposite of 9. It also means that the power of 6 is sex and the power of 9 is the mind. Paragraph 2. Since 9 and 6 are opposites, one has to represent life and the other death. One has to represent order and the other disorder. One must represent standards in nature and the other substandards. One must represent the sun and the other the moon, etc. Therefore, just as the sun is the opposite of the moon, Farkind is the opposite of mankind. Farkind is all people with genuinely kinky, meaning kingly hair by nature. And mankind is all peoples with straight hair by nature. Farkind became identified with mankind down through evolution. Paragraph 3. Evolution is the death and slow decay of a universe. There are galaxies of universes throughout existence, just as there are galaxies of stars throughout a universe. And when a universe dies, that death is evolution. Hence, evolution is continuous decay and not improvement, as Caucasians would have us believe. Caucasians are ghost people called white people. A universe is a ball of ether whose diameter is in the range from 3 trillion times 6 sextillion miles to 3 trillion times 9 million miles, and whose insides are dotted throughout with liquid solid ball growths. Paragraph 4. Okay, guys, let me just say this. Okay, now we just said when the cycle of evolution is the cycle of decay, right? Caucasians make you think evolution is a progression in nature. No, that's a lie. Evolution started at 6 west on the smack circle. You guys see it right here. Evolution actually started 18 million years ago. So we're now at 3 south. This is where we are now. And 6 west was the beginning of evolution. So keep that in mind. Okay. And that occurred 18 million years ago. So let's keep going. Paragraph. I'm going to get to all questions, guys, as soon as I'm done. So you still can ask questions, but I will get to all questions as soon as I'm done. Definitely, guys. I promise. But continue. I can ask questions. Now, paragraph 4. According to a law of nature in the code of the opposites, everything that lives must die, in flesh or spirit, visibly and invisible. And a universe is no exception, although it is the biggest existence that can be called a living being. A universe is living at one time and dead at another time. It is in order at one time and disorder at another time. When a universe dies, evolution begins, and evolution is 6, and 6 is the zodiac, the animal world. Death of the universe takes the forms of animal kind and the power of necromancy. Paragraph 5. According to a law of nature in the code of the opposites, there must be those who represent the universe in life and those who represent it in death, because a being who represents life by nature cannot really represent death also. For the formula of life is the opposite of the formula of death. Therefore, since the prime mover in matter was non-ether, who put matter in orders called universes, it stands to nine reason that those original living beings in the universes would naturally represent the living universe. And those original living beings were woolly-haired Ethiopian pygmies and their descendants called Farkai. Hence, mankind represents the universe in death, which is evolution. Paragraph 6. Just like any other living thing, the universe is born, grows, matures, gets old, and declines into death. And that death is evolution. The coming of the zodiac, which is six ether, into power in persons of original man and other death-dealing animals. Death takes the form of animal beings. Original man is the Phoenician, the Indian, and Mongolian peoples. Mongolians are people like the Chinese and the Japanese. Paragraph 7. Mankind evolved from anthropoid monkeys who inhabited Indonesia on the equator. The summer season represents life in nature, and the winter season represents death. The monkey is one of the winter seed that came up as death out of the waters of Indonesia when the universe died. Since the Ethiopian, who is life by nature, could not represent physical death by nature, mankind had to evolve from monkey for the purpose of supplanting the Ethiopian so that death could reign and rule in time and season, and this is evolution. Paragraph 8. When a universe gets old, it weakens. And in order to regain its strength again for survival, it must rest. That is, go through a long period of loose relaxation from its higher standards, which require the greatest concentration of its best energies. After the rest, called evolution, it is able by nature to regroup its energies and pull itself back to its higher standards and greatest existence, which is the summer of the universe. Paragraph 9. The winter season of the universe produced the chimpanzee monkey, and a branch of the chimpanzee evolved into the Phoenician race, an East Indian type of people who occupied the northern regions of Africa and certain portions of Asia, especially Western Asia, and are known today as Arabs. This people in time past represented the sun god for Leviathan, the zodiac, which is six ether. In time past, the chief god of the Phoenician were called Elion and Ra, but are called Allah today, and were called Zeus by the Greeks and Jupiter by the Romans, and Marduk or Anu by the Babylonians. And let me just say this, guys, real quick. When we talk about the Phoenicians, we're also referring to like the Dravidian peoples, right? The Dravidian peoples who live in India today, and basically your East Africans, like people that live in Ethiopia, those who have been mixed in with like Hindu-like peoples, right? But because they're close to, African and so on. Well, let me say that Ethiopians are African. They're black. Okay. But it's more like the Hindu, the Dravidian Hindu-like peoples would be more like your Phoenicians. But let's keep going. Paragraph 10. Six ether is nine ether in death, just as mankind is far kind or far in physical death. In count one, we define nine ether as a combination of all existing gases and chemicals. Like nine ether, six ether is conscious gases, but six ether is not the complete combination of all gases and chemicals, meaning it is void of the gases and chemicals that are necessary for universal life because it lost them through age and exhaustion. This is how nine ether became six ether by the nature of nature. The zodiac is six ether in the atmosphere of the universe and in animal flesh and blood. Again, six ether is nine ether in death. The sun emanates nine ether during the universal summer or universal life. and 6 ether during universal winter or universal death. 6 ether is conscious gas fires or conscious fire gases, excuse me. Paragraph 11. The winter season of the universe produced the gibbon monkey, and a branch of the gibbon evolved into the Indian race. The type of people that lived in India and Pakistan and their descendants on other parts of the planet. Phoenicians and Indians have crossbred down through the years, and many American Indians are crossbred with Mongolians. Like the chimpanzee and orangutan, the gibbon came forth from the waters in Indonesia on the equator approximately 18 million years ago. Like the time the chimpanzee and the gibbon took for their respective developments into a race, a branch of the orangutan also took 12 million years to evolve into a physical erect people called the Mongolian race. Mongolians are people like the Japanese and the Chinese and their descendants in other parts of the earth. The Phoenician, Indian, and Mongolian races are original man, the father and mother of all mankind. Mankind is all peoples with straight hair by nature. Paragraph 12. When a body dies and it is exposed to water or atmospheric gases, that body will swell bigger and bigger. And this is why we Ethiopian scientists know that evolution is death of the body called the universe, because the beings, the parts of the universe, swell to greater proportions, and this is development of decay. Evolution is the magnification of death and a manifestation of the zodiac. And the zodiac is 6, and 6 is the animal world and its powers, including mankind, king of the animal world. Paragraph 13. The Phoenician race represents the sun for Leviathan. The Indian race represents the earth for Leviathan. And the Mongolian race represents the moon for Leviathan. Leviathan is 6 ether. The zodiac is the atmosphere of the universe, and in flesh and blood called animals. Ethiopians, here you read a brief introduction to 6, the chief of whom is mankind. The serpent symbolizes the sun for Leviathan, the crocodile symbolizes the earth for Leviathan, and the monkey symbolizes the moon for the same. Part B, purpose of religion. Paragraph 14. If one does not know the composition and nature of what he worships, for all he knows, it may be a monster. Scientifically, religion is the interference of the dead into the lives of the living. The dead are those negative forces of nature who must suppress, repress, and subsist and on living beings in order to survive. 6 ether is the power of the dead, because it is evolutionary forces that cause things to get old, die, and decay. Therefore, the prime purpose of religion is to spellbind people to do the will of the dead for survival of the dead. Religious worship increases the power of the dead and makes the dead stronger to cause more suffering and more death. And the more death there are, the stronger the dead get, unless deaths are neutralized and counteracted by new cycle gases, the revolutionary cycle gases, that is. And this is, guys, just so you know, this is where we are. We are in the beginning of the revolutionary cycle. So when you look at the SMAC, we had 3 south, but we had 3 south on the right side of it down. And that's the beginning of revolution. So we're now going up, just so you know. And so now the suns are emitting 9 ether energies. Okay. And this is the reason why this knowledge is on the planet today. So let's keep going. Paragraph 15. Scientifically, the Bible is the universal book of the dead. There is no one in the Bible today who is living. Everyone in it is dead. And the beings, 6 ether and ghosts, the people of that Bible we're talking about, were dead. Hence, by all means, it is the book of the dead. And those who believe in it today are dead or mentally dead. Therefore, in your mental death, which is universal ignorance, It is the preacher's job to get you ready for physical death to make the dead stronger. Without a doubt, the Bible is the eulogy of the dead, and thereby those who believe in it are worshipers of the dead. Paragraph 16. Jesus is sixth ether, and God is ghost, the conscious gases of death. The two are opposites of the same thing, Leviathan, the zodiac. One chief symbol of the zodiac is the cross, which comes from the words crescent and crocodile. The words cross and crescent refers to the moon, and the moon is sixth power. The moon is a dead universal body that supports the symmetry and multiplies negative forces called demons and monsters and ghouls. The word demon means dead moon and dead mind. The word monster means moon star, meaning moon actor. The word ghoul means ghost soul. The word monkey means moon key. The moon is the base of the dead, and because it is dead, it supports and magnifies death. Paragraph 17. God is the dead, and this is why they say you cannot see God and live, and is also why they say you cannot see God until you die. God is ghost, the gases that the dead emanates. Sixth ether subsists on the living being and eventually destroys the living being. And when the living being dies, it becomes God as the ghost gases evaporate into the atmosphere. Whenever you see the cross, the dead is there, either the physical dead or the mental dead or both. We see the cross on a church and the mental dead hangs out there. We see the cross in the graveyard and the physical dead stays there. Ethiopian culture does not support the dead. And this is why our ancestors burned dead bodies instead of burying them. The dead bodies multiply and emanate negative forces that must live on and destroy the living in order to survive. Ghouls subsist on dead bodies and get stronger and more powerful to possess people and create diseases and cause people to kill each other. Paragraph 18. One reason mankind's civilization is so adverse, unclean, and chaotic is because in most cases, he buries dead bodies instead of burning them. The words Caucasianity, civilization, and Christianity are synonymous in meaning, for all three mean the Caucasian race degree of intelligence. Therefore, another purpose of religion is to control the minds of the captive masses by keeping them ignorant so that the Caucasian, which is the posterity of the dead, can use them at will and exploit them for the benefit of the dead. Paragraph 19. Take away from religion, especially Christianity, the doctrine of life after death, and little or nothing is left. This life after death doctrine is the doctrine of the dead. This doctrine is why the preacher is getting people ready to die. And after death, the person is never able to tell anyone he or she was soundly and sadly deceived. Thereby, the ignorance of it all is sealed by death forever. The life after death theory is a trick which only the gullible cannot see. Religion is all right for mankind, but not all right for falkind. For falkind needs universal and natural science for survival and proper well-being. If the reader wishes to learn more about religion, buy and read the booklets called Bible Interpretations and Explanations. Those Bible booklets are written by Amenubi Ra'aktar, one of the teachers who taught us scientists who wrote and write these booklets, the Nine Ball. Chapter C, Alien Education. Paragraph 20. A person, place, or thing is alien to us Ethiopians when it is not of and for us by nature. A person, place, or thing is in the nature of whoever or whatever created it. If the Ethiopian has or is receiving education which has not been created by his and her own kind, while that kind is in its right mind, that education is alien and destroys our identity and upright way of life by nature. Especially, education is the knowledge, wisdom, and understanding found in one's culture. Ethiopian education and Caucasian education are opposites. One is the way of death, and the other is the way of life. Generally, education is knowledge, wisdom, and understanding found anywhere in the universe. Much of Caucasian education is forced education designed to deceive the captive. We're missing paragraph 21, guys, so we're going to paragraph 22. Paragraph 22. It was regrettable that the ignorance of Ethiopians allowed them to come to an educational confrontation with the Caucasian and the Caucasian's own educational system, because the Caucasian was sure to win, for Black people had nothing to mentally challenge the Caucasian with. For example, there is nothing a Negro knows which a Caucasian somewhere does not know. And this makes a Negro a mental creation and mental prisoner of the Caucasian. Therefore, the Negro has no mental power capable of challenging his mental maker, the Caucasian teacher, successfully. Hence, defeat was inevitable. So paragraph 21 actually was about Black people back in the 60s. In the 70s and I think it started in the 50s, where they were fighting the educational system that they wanted to integrate into the Caucasian school systems because they were receiving an inferior education. And the master teacher was addressing that in this particular book, that was a bad decision for us to do, to try to get into the Caucasian educational system. And guys, if you look at it's happening again today. We're still fighting the educational system. If you refer to the banning of the 1619 project, they banned the Juneteenth acknowledgement in the school systems, and they're banning this concept called the critical race theory taught in the schools. We're still fighting the same ridiculous fight 50 years from now. Like, in fact, let me show you guys. I pulled up some clips. I want you to listen to this.
An Arkansas lawmaker proposes.
Hi, I'm Nicole Hockley from Seattle.
Hold on, commercial.
I know this is hard to hear, but it's important.
An Arkansas lawmaker proposes 2 bills to ban certain curriculum from being taught in schools, and they are not without controversy. Thank you for watching. I'm Craig O'Neill, and THV 11's Jay Jackson explains the pushback on Saving American History Act of 2021. That's a bill that would prohibit using public school funds to teach curriculum based on the New York Times 1619 project.
1619 project states that it was that year in August, not 1776, that America was originally founded. That's when a ship pulled up at Point Comfort, a small British colony in Virginia, with about 30 enslaved Africans. But State Representative Mike Lowry says that information is false and shouldn't be taught in Arkansas schools.
Basically, what it says is that the United States was not founded on the ideals of 1776 in the Declaration of Independence, but that it was founded on the backs of slaves and on the concept of white supremacy.
Representative Mark Lowry proposed House Bill 1232 last Thursday. It bans use of public school funds to teach the 1619 project curriculum, which he says isn't an approved curriculum for the state anyway.
There is no historical proof of that. As a matter of fact, the United States was the first, or the colonies were the first to push back against slavery.
So this guy is saying that this country wasn't based on racism, white supremacy. That's what he's saying. This country was not based on racism, white supremacy. What a joke. You guys get that? They don't want to deal with the reality that this country was surely based on racism, white. In fact, the whole Caucasians, all Europeans were attacking the whole globe based on racism, white supremacy. But this guy want to act like this country wasn't based on that. Let's keep going.
HBCU historian Professor Edmund Davis says the bill is an attempt to whitewash American history.
They're saying here that America was founded on the ideas of the Declaration of Independence. In essence, there's some truth to that as well. But again, the people who built this country, of course, free labor, we're talking formerly enslaved American citizens.
The bill would also reduce funding to schools that decided to teach the curriculum regardless. Little Rock School Board President Vicki Hatter is calling for people and educators to push back.
That will alter how education institutions will be able to educate our children as far as teaching of history, particularly Little Rock. It is a civil rights district.
From a national standpoint, 49% of students in public schools are ethnic minorities of color.
If schools are low income, then they can't be defunded. Still, Representative Lowry says pushback shouldn't come off an initial review of the name, the Saving American History Act of 2021.
And I think that's the thing that we have to focus on is the factual history of America. There is no factual history that America was built on slavery.
You see that? He said it's no factual history that America was built on slavery. You see, this guy's a politician. And this is what we're up against. Our people, they're still trying to convince these people that I don't know what to say. Listen, this is another one. Listen to this one, guys. It's crazy.
Controversial academic movement. The critical race theory movement in the headlines as Florida becomes the latest state to ban schools from teaching about systemic racism. ABC's Zachary Quiche is here with more. Good morning to you, Zachary.
Eva, good morning to you as well. You know, it's really a way of looking at the world. It's a lens that acknowledges the role that racism plays. But critics will argue because it's both complex and because it's been politicized, instead of being used as a way of re-examining or reframing the past, it's being used as a tool to accentuate a cultural divide. This morning, critical race theory, a term originally used to broaden how we think about the past, is being used by some to define the racial divide in our schools.
Critical race theory comes out of the legal field. It's been conceptualized over 40 years ago by scholars such as Kimberly Crenshaw, speaking specifically about how systemic racism works in the legal field.
These legal scholars argued individual intentions can't be proven, but as a framework, racism is baked into our social systems and psychology. That's the start of the conversation, they said. Last year, the New York Times 1619 Project placed the struggle of Black Americans at the center of our country's narrative. While the work gave a nod to those largely left out of the history books, it quickly became politicized. Critical race theory was the umbrella term.
This is a deliberate plan to politicize and whitewash history.
Thank you, Mr. Fraser.
Stop it.
It is sad that we are even contemplating something like critical race theory, where children will be separated by their skin.
Now, here's a Black woman defending white people to get rid of they don't want to teach racism and white supremacy in the school system. This is the Black sister helping white people. And this is the problem we're facing. Our own people working against their own best interests.
Color and deemed permanently oppressors or oppressed in 2021.
On Thursday, the Florida Board of Education banned critical race theory in its schools.
I think it'll cause people to think of themselves more as a member of a particular race or based on skin color rather than based on the content of their character.
There's no national mandate saying this curriculum needs to be taught in public schools, but at least 5 Republican-led states have now officially banned the theory from public education. Last month, state AGs from 20 states told the education department they oppose the teachings.
What teachers have been doing is simply doing what they always do. They create magic in our classrooms. They give our students the opportunity to understand the full breadth and depth of the American society. And that is about the inception of this country. That's about our Constitution. That's about slavery. That's about Jim Crow laws. It's about the beautiful inventions that we've had. And it spans across the diaspora. And it spans across any demographic kind of divide that we may have.
People on both sides are fired up.
It absolutely needs to be taught, okay? CRT needs to be taught to avoid biases, to not repeat history.
There are racists. There always has been. They should be condemned. But I don't believe that America is a racist country.
Now, some say that education has been impacted by the moment.
We're unfortunately seeing resistance to even broach the concept of what that means in our understanding of our history and our present.
not a new concept, some 4 decades in the making. Now, some educators argue that the
Okay. Let's see. I think I have one more I want you guys to see on this subject matter.
65 is the day that Union Army. This is one of the most despicable things
Hold on,
I've
commercial.
seen in all my years in public service. Republicans are moving on it.
1865 was the day that Union Army Major General Gordon Granger issued a general order, officially and finally liberating the enslaved black people of Texas, which was the most remote part of the Confederacy, who had still been kept under the whip months after Confederate General Robert E. Lee surrendered at.
Now, hold on, guys. The first video I showed you, that was talking about what was that talking about? I forget. Oh, the 1619 project, right? So they wanted to ban that. Then the second video I showed you, that was talking about the critical race theory, talking about racism, white supremacy. They want to ban that. And now we're talking about Juneteenth. They banned that. They just made it a holiday, but it's still banned to be taught. Let's watch. Listen.
Mathematics. In other words, it is the day.
Oh, Juneteenth. I'm sorry, Juneteenth. Let's keep going.
Of full national liberation and has been celebrated as such by African Americans for years. Now, there's been no national official holiday to mark this moment, but it looks like that's about to change. Earlier this evening, to loud applause, the House approved a bill to make Juneteenth a national holiday.
On this vote, the yeas are 415 and the nays are 14. The bill is passed.
The bill will now go to President Joe Biden's desk to be signed into law. And while 14 House Republicans voted against the bill tonight, yesterday the Senate adopted it unanimously. Republican Senator Ron Johnson of Wisconsin had spent much of the last year objecting to it, he said, on cost grounds, but he finally backed down. And if you were surprised that all Republican senators who are simultaneously whipping up a moral panic about race and education would endorse such a holiday, listen very closely to how John Cornyn of Texas explained his reasoning earlier today.
I think everybody saw this as something that would be an important symbolic gesture and a way to reach out to people of different races and to say, I know that Juneteenth has been celebrated within the African American community around the country in Texas and elsewhere. But frankly, this is something I think all Americans can celebrate. And hopefully this will promote greater understanding into the history.
Senator Cornyn, who represents Texas, where Governor Greg Abbott just signed a law today making it harder to teach about the history of white supremacy and racial hierarchy in America, endorses this vote on Juneteenth because he says it is a symbolic gesture. What a tell, what a word to use as justification. This is the game. Here, have your holiday while we attack your right to vote and stop schools from teaching you what Juneteenth is even about or how it came about. It's pretty astoundingly cynical. But another way to see this is as a kind of success for the very forces that Greg Abbott and John Cornyn and so many others say they fear. At some point in time, the simple act of celebrating Juneteenth itself was seen as radical or weird or outside the mainstream of the sanitized story that white historians told about the war and its causes and aftermaths, about the nobility of the Confederacy and the men who fought and killed to preserve the most evil institutions. That version of history lost, at least in this battle for this holiday, celebrating emancipation. The optimistic way to view this contradiction between the attack on education and voting while also endorsing the holiday is that when they say they are losing their country or their vision of it, they are right in a certain way. They are losing. The anti-critical race theory hysteria, the desperate attempts to reduce democratic participation are the activities of a coalition losing the battle of ideas.
Okay. So again, they did make Juneteenth into a holiday, but at the same time, they don't allow it to be taught in the education system, which is why a lot of people, like I grew up in New York City and I was never taught about Juneteenth. In fact, I didn't even learn about it until I think 2007 when I was living here in Georgia and they had a Juneteenth festival. And that's when I learned about it. That's crazy, you know, but let's keep going. So now keep in mind, this is what the master teacher was writing about 50 years ago about the educational system and us fighting in their system. It's crazy, but let's keep going. So now I'm at paragraph 23. So he goes on to say this. However, the challenge was justified and cause of the challenge was clear. Ethiopians saw that their children were being pushed through the schools and learning little or nothing, and had no reason to think that this negligence in education was being done intentionally by Caucasian teachers. Or excuse me, and had reason to think that this negligence in education was being done intentionally by Caucasian teachers. The confrontation was very regrettable because the defeat was far-reaching and very bitter for our children, in the sense that the Caucasian now feels justified in teaching our children even less than before. So our children will be less able to win a confrontation against their children in the future. So our children will be less able to offer competition in all fields of endeavors against their children as time goes on. What the mentally dead Negro does not understand is that Caucasians are dedicated to keeping Ethiopians as ignorant as possible, especially if the person is militant or of a disagreeable nature against the Caucasians. And this is one way the Caucasian tries to assure his continuous rule by ignorance and the gullible among us. Paragraph 24. We Ethiopians need our own educational system and our own knowledge to teach. An Ethiopian may have a master's degree or a doctorate of philosophy degree in Caucasian education and still be ignorant of his origins, or ignorant of his real name, ignorant of language and culture in general, ignorant of the true origin of the races, ignorant of the origin of the universe and the suns, planets, and satellites thereof, and even does not know what race he or she is a member of. What we must do is not challenge the quality of education which the Caucasian offers, but challenge what he offers. What he offers is usually a lot of lies, unless you are able to give the true meaning to his lies. For example, the Caucasian writes that George Washington never told a lie. It is true that George Washington did not tell a lie because he told many lies. It was not just one. A means one. Caucasian quality education is still stagnant education for Ethiopians. For Ethiopians are Caucasians, and Caucasians are opposites by nature, and thereby have opposite natures, and therefore should receive opposite education. What we Ethiopians must do is search nature for its laws and codes and way by which we must survive and strive, and write our own educational books, necessary information for our adults and our children. Paragraph 25. One purpose of these booklets, known as the 9-ball, is to set the stage and outline the facts and procedure necessary for restoration of our Ethiopian culture, our own way of life. The restoration of our own culture will make us masters of our own destiny. The Caucasian race is dedicated to keeping Ethiopians mentally dependent, for mental dependency maintains physical and economic dependency, and economic dependency presupposes alien exploitation. Never forget that the Caucasian Jew is a member of the Caucasian race, and therefore his nature and purpose are the same as that of other Caucasians. Exploitation of darker peoples through world domination, living on suppressing darker peoples via the crude and cruel doctrine of scapegoatism. Paragraph 26. The way for us to really challenge the Caucasian and his educational system is by searching and finding our own education and making our own history again. Negro history is slave history. We need to make Ethiopian history, and we can do this by regaining Ethiopian culture by nature. We Ethiopian scientists will open the door to this liberation of the mind. The best quality education that Ethiopians can receive is Ethiopian education, which is based on the origin of everything, nature of, purpose of, and development of. Ethiopian education follows the dictates of the laws and codes and ways of nature in which we were grown and by which we must exist. This real education is called nine knowledge. It is a miserable state. It is a miserable state of condition where Ethiopians, the originators of the universes, degrade themselves arguing with Caucasians because they are not receiving more Caucasian misleading education. This is like saying you would like to be a better slave or captive. Paragraph 27, section how to economize. Okay. Just as correct information is the foundation of mental life, proper economy is the foundation of physical life. The mental controls the physical. Of course, to economize means to buy only what you need. Most Caucasian holidays are commercial days designed to drain the poor and ignorant of the little finance that may have been left from paying bills. Most Caucasian holidays are designed to make the poor poorer and the rich richer. We Ethiopians must forget about Caucasian holidays, and as events happen among us that presuppose an Ethiopian holiday, we will declare it. In other words, we must create our own holidays as we reach the stages of progress in life that warrant such declarations. Caucasian holidays are stigmatic days for us to help keep us economic slaves and captives. That is, their holidays help keep us economically dependent on Caucasians because Ethiopians, out of ignorance, spend unnecessary money for Caucasian holidays. Paragraph 28. The base of economy is food, clothing, and shelter. Therefore, proper economy is proper food, proper clothing, and proper shelter, the necessities of life. Anything other than sufficient food, clothing, and shelter, and the tools and means necessary to get and maintain these necessities is luxury. A people or race striving and struggling for liberation cannot afford luxuries. For all our excesses, economical, financial, scientific, educational, and otherwise, should be pulled and directed towards making our communities and race independent and self-sustaining. The Caucasian is not selfish when it comes to his children. The Caucasian says that if he does not reap the harvest of his works and plannings, his children will, because he knows his future is his children. We must secure our future, and our future is our children too. Now, I say refer to, when you talk about economics, guys, this is a huge problem for us. We spend billions of unnecessary money, just like the example on, when it comes to black women and synthetic hair care, guys. This is a challenge for us, a huge challenge. Now look at this, right? On that particular subject. This is in Nigeria. Our women in Nigeria spending billions on synthetic hair care. Check it out.
In this salon it's a busy day in this salon in the Nigerian capital, Abuja, and it's like this every day. A shift in beauty taste is driving the salon business here. Natural hairdos are no longer trending. Instead, synthetic and human hair weaves, wigs, and extensions are most sought after. Most of the products are imported from Brazil or India. In Nigeria alone, the ever-growing demand now runs into billions of dollars. For most of the women here, it's a quest not just for beauty, but confidence too.
I prefer it because it's beautiful, and to some extent, it's still natural because it's human hair. Is made from somebody's hair, and it gives me some confidence because it's beautiful and it makes me look beautiful like I'm looking now.
The search for beauty and confidence has given rise to a serious business here. Nigerian women spend millions of dollars annually on imported human hair, wigs, and weaves. And that's why salons here are some of the most competitive businesses
to invest in.
Thousands of salons like this one are opening all over the country. Raphael has been in the industry for years. He says clients' expectations are diverse and afford him a good living.
Most women are interested in the length, the shade, the color, and where the hair is coming in from. They started with a Brazilian hair, then we'll have a Croatian hair, Caucasian hair, and all that. So it's a very trendy business, and it's a good business, I must tell. Very nice one.
You see this, brother? He's saying our women wearing Caucasian hair, Hindu hair, and that's a good thing, and that's a good business for him to making money off of. Our women literally believe they're looking beautiful because they're wearing synthetic hair care, and they're spending billions, guys. Now think about it. If that's an unnecessary expense, right? Imagine us taking that same billions, our black women taking that same billions and investing that money into education. Then we can support people like Umar Johnson, who's trying to build his own school system. You know, we can build our own cultural academies and educate our people. It's not that we don't have the money. We do have the money. It's just what we're wasting it. What we're spending money on. It's insane. But that's the spell, and that's what we're fighting. Our people are suffering from identity crisis. They're suffering from an advanced level of self-hate. But let's keep going. We're in paragraph 29. Another gimmick the Caucasian uses to strip poor and ignorant people of their finance and economic means is styles and fashions. We are Ethiopians and we must forget about Caucasian styles. Most Caucasian styles are uncomfortable and unhelpful because of their tightness, and some of them downright indecent. Caucasian styles are not designed to aid life, but destroy it. The female with spiked heels on aids death. Her tight girdle and other tight wears and the male's tight belt and tight tie are not designed to prolong life. Tight clothing causes poor blood circulation and thereby circulatory problems. Caucasian styles and fashions are mainly for lewd and commercial purposes and to be different from other races. Some Caucasian styles excite the male into sexual slavery, by which means Leviathan, the zodiac, uses to keep the captive minds preoccupied and diverted from the pursuit of liberation and well-being. Paragraph 30. We must learn to buy only that which we need. We cannot afford the luxury of what we want and liberate ourselves from financial and economic slavery and captivity. We owe this economizing for liberation to our children who are our future. Our children deserve a free and equal future, for they had nothing to say about their being born into this world of adverse forces bent on keeping them mental and physical captives by all means. To do less than what we should and what we can for our children are doing them injustice and disservice. In other words, to do other than our best for them is most unfair to them. Paragraph 31. We Ethiopians must create our own styles designed for comfort and simplicity. We must not let the Caucasian influence us on what we should get to wear or how many we need. We only need to be clean and neat and comfortable as far as clothing is concerned. We must not let the Caucasian influence us on what is best for us to eat. He may tell us that pig is all right to consume, but we know that pig is a diseased animal by nature who possesses poison flesh. By nature, hogs produce trichine worms, which cause diseases called trichinosis. We must decide for ourselves what is best for us to eat and how much, and cook it in a way that is best for health. This way, we save money and other vital purposes at the same time save lives, right? And I want to refer you to Dr. Amos Wilson, who talks about our condition. This good brother who transitioned, he's transitioned, but this brother had some supreme science about us as a people, and he was a psychiatrist, or psychologist. But listen to him. Listen to him.
Are you, holy are you?
talk to y'all for a minute.
Praise be the Lord.
This 1190 WLIB World Leadership in Broadcasting. Amos Wilson, our topic is the psychology of self-hatred among global African people. And we had a caller just a moment ago who raised the economic dimension, and certainly, I guess, the economic possibility. I constantly have had conversations about the potential that we have in terms of being an economic force. And there's no point in repeating the numbers of us who are in churches, community organizations, and how in just one weekend, you know, we could raise, you know, obviously enough money to create our own banking system in one weekend. Professor Wilson, that last caller was reaching out.
That's in part the effect of the self-hatred, which leads to a squandering of economic resources. The inability of the Black community to use this tremendous economic wealth for its own interests is indicative of the issue we're talking about here today. I hope to get around to talking about, when I talk about the effects of dealing with self-hatred, one of the effects, of course, is the misspending of money. And
how so though? How does that work?
Because the money is misspent again to relieve pain, you see, to compensate for inferiorities, and because the individual has been reversed, which we'll have to explain at some later point. You will see a situation where almost inevitably the spending for getting over an inferiority complex involves spending the money with the person who gave it to you in the first place.
Wait a minute. There's something you had a thing about anger and resentment binding the oppressor to the oppressed.
Yes, and this is a part of the aspect of it, you see. You want to buy the approval, you want to buy, you mentioned even in the Garvey statement, you want to buy the products that restructure the image. And because you see, the essence of controlling people is to provoke a desire in them. And then, of course, have control of the satisfaction of that desire. You see, and that's at the foundation of the capitalist system and of the economic system, you see. And you can provoke that desire in them either through anger, through hatred, through direct tantalizing of the individual. See, the key to being in the ruling class is to create desire first, and to have control over the resources for the satisfaction of the desire.
So provoke a desire, then service the need.
Then service the need. Yeah. But you also lay the conditions down for getting the need service. And that way you create the behavior in the process. And you create the personality in the process. So,
and those who can't get into that don't fit.
No, not at all. So, so the idea is, if you're cursed, often we say your behavior then will involve trying to get the person to remove the curse, which sends you back to the individual, asking their acceptance. And of course, often they will make a few demands on you, which you have to fulfill before you can gain that acceptance back again. If you feel as if, and see what happens when we were robbed, and we are robbed as people, we see who have it, but who has what has been robbed from us. But we also forced to buy back because we can't buy it from ourselves. We don't have it. You see, because when we try to compensate for a loss of status by dressing well, we got to go to Bloomie's or somewhere, you know. When we try to compensate for a loss of status by buying a house, we go to the white community, you see, or by eating at, and we want to show those people that we're as good as they are, so forth. You see, all of this effort to compensate and prove something and to be accepted and all of this kind of or to escape is going to send you directly back to the people who created the situation in the first place.
Amazing.
You see, so it works very beautifully. That caller had an implication there that again, people don't deal with, except I've seen Chancellor William deal with it in this book. And I try to get people to understand, read the whole of the Chancellor William book, because often they read it as history, you see.
That's his book titles.
The Destruction of Black Civilization.
Yes.
And of course, at the back part of that book, he's dealing with, of course, Reconstruction, and he's dealing with political social and economic plans. Of course, when you study the movement of Marcus Garvey, as well as the movement of Elijah Muhammad and others, you see it implied there. And that implication is nation building. The creation of a national network, economic, social, political network by Black people, and a national economic program of development, political, social program by Black people. Now, I don't want this to be interpreted as advocating the overthrow of the United States government, okay? I'm talking about the kind of informal organization that you often find in other ethnic groups that have, you know, so-and-so congresses and the Congress of leaders from various regions and situations of this kind that come together and have a policy, political, social, economic policy, which is coordinated nationwide and then into worldwide as well. We have not done that. We have the foundation for it. We have a whole network of Black churches. You also saw the network being laid in Elijah Muhammad's system as well. So if we're gonna have to look at that, see how we can informally set up this kind of network, because once we do this, we can lay the basis for real productive economics. And I was talking later on about how productive economics in the United States is tied to the productive economics of African people the world over, and the economic activity of Black people in this country is crucial to economic development of African people the world over.
Professor Amos Wilson.
Okay, so the brother Amos Wilson was talking about, you know, just economics for Black people. You know, we got to understand it's not an issue of us not having economics or the money. It's just that it's how we use our money. It's how we spend it, and we spend it for self gratification. we literally spend all our money for self gratification, or all of the excess money we have after we take care of our necessities, and that's part of the spell. But let's keep going. Paragraph 32. Like other people, we must control our communities and own and operate all businesses in our communities. This is a major step towards liberation, because it would mean that we have reached the point of getting what we need from its original source. One of the first ways our liberation will show progress is through business control by us in our own communities, because whatever racial group or groups control the businesses in a community control that community as far as the commerce of that community is concerned. However, we cannot accomplish these things with Negro mind, meaning negative mind. Therefore, one purpose of these booklets entitled The Nine Ball is to help change Negro mind to positive mind, the kind of mind we need for creativeness. And of course, creativity is the key to liberation. Paragraph 33. When an Ethiopian learns to control our individual selves, we can control our families. And if we can control our families, we can control our communities. And if we can control our communities, we can control a city, a state, a nation. Self-control is self-discipline, and self-discipline means moderation in sex and abstinence from strong drinks, narcotics, tobacco, marijuana smoking, etc. But only the intelligent among us can embrace and maintain this kind of discipline, and they can achieve it and perpetuate it by understanding and adhering to nine knowledge, the best knowledge available to Ethiopians anywhere. Paragraph 34. Those of us who will be liberated must be able to exist like a son by our individual selves if necessary, that is, without visible physical organizations. In other words, each one of us who can liberate self must be able to practice liberation knowledge alone without being a direct member of such physical organizations. 9 organization of the mind is prerequisite to physical organization of our physical selves. A son is self-created, and you can create your own mental self by understanding and adhering to son knowledge. A son is self-existent, And you can be self-existent if you understand and accept sun knowledge. Accepting nine knowledge means practicing nine knowledge at all times with every person, place, and thing as reasonable and practical as possible. So the master teacher is trying to make clear that in order for us to build as an organization, we all must have the nine mind. It's pointless trying to come together physically and we're not united mentally. Again, it's pointless trying to come together physically and we're not united mentally, because mental unity creates physical unity, but physical unity does not create mental unity. That's why so many of our organizations have failed. They all crumbled because of infighting. Constantly infighting, guys, constantly battling each other. And that is because of the negative mind. And you got to overcome that negative mind before we can come together as a collective body. And that's why we're teaching this information. Let's keep going. Paragraph 35. The last war of the moon cycle, the cycle of ghosts and the person of the Caucasian race, is in progress now, and the only ones to survive it are the mentally fittest. The unintelligent and gullible will perish for lack of ability to understand and follow the laws and way of nature. No one can liberate a person. A person must liberate self by understanding and adhering to liberation information. Sixth ether part. Paragraph 36. Six ether is nine ether in death. To put it another way, when nine ether dies, it becomes six ether. As stated in count 1 of the booklets, the 9 ball, 9 ether is a complete combination of all existing gases and chemicals, and there can be nothing more powerful. This is why 9 ether is the original creator or grower. In Ethiopian culture, creation means growth. Therefore, 6 ether is the reverse formula of 9 ether. And 9 ether is the formula of life, and 6 ether is the formula of death. And this means that the original life-giving gases and chemicals in 9 ether dissipate and lessen to the point of ineffectiveness. And this marks the death of 9 ether, the true Ethiopian forces in nature. Then evolution begins in force like a body gets cold and starts to decay at death. Paragraph 37. 6 ether is the forces of evolution. And these forces are the zodiac, called Leviathan, dragon, and serpent. In the Caucasian's Bible, 6 ether controls and rules during the evolutionary cycle on Earth by way of the moon. The evolutionary cycle is a cycle of death in the universe, and it covers an 18 million year period. After this period of time, evolution reverses, and mankind revolves back to monkey, and evolutionary Ethiopian revolves back to pygmy. 6 ether is the energy, the universe of the universe when the universe is dead. That is in its death cycle. Paragraph 38. When the premises of 6 ether breaks forth from the sun at death of the universe and reaches the Earth magnetic field, it interferes with the Earth and moon in their living courses. And the great deluge on Earth called Noah's flood takes place. The moon, which is a living universal body at that time, we're talking about 18 million years ago, guys. The moon, which is a living universal body at that time, the beginning of evolution stops turning on its axis, on its own axis, and thereby becomes waterless, by which means it becomes a dead universal body that converts 6 ether from the sun to deeper and greater negative forces, which is development of evolution until it reaches its climax in ghosts and the Caucasian race. 6 ether is the zodiac, which is conscious death gases of the universe in the atmosphere of the universe, and takes the form of animals and flesh and blood on the planets. And the head of the zodiac, the animal world, is mankind. Paragraph 39. The Ethiopian race has a great mind power deficiency caused by the lack of 9 knowledge and the absence of our own universal cycle by nature. Therefore, since our cycle is back again, These booklets containing 9 knowledge will help increase our mind power, the power from whence all other powers come, and develop into practical tools, programs, and other usages. Paragraph 40. This is the last paragraph. Ethiopians do not just read these booklets known as the 9 Ball, but study them well and pass the information on to your offspring for our survival, future, and well-being. Our children is or are our future, and our Ethiopian females give birth to that future. So it is extremely important that our princesses, our females, give special attention to this racial information, for it means the liberation and preservation of our Ethiopian race. 9 mind matter is the highest form of matter in the universes, and it can be accomplished, and it can accomplish this by all necessary means. Okay. That is it. That is it. So I hope, reading that assists with some of you guys' questions and concerns on this subject matter. And, it's a very extensive subject matter, a very complex subject matter at that, because it's extremely new information, because our people have never been taught these things. We don't have universal Really? Not even. I forgot all about that. Okay. 1 1 2 1 2. It didn't come back yet. All right. Am I back? Do they see me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Press 1 if y'all can hear me. You still can't hear me? Can you hear me? Oh, they can hear me now. Okay. All right. We have technical difficulties. I don't know what happened, guys. The sound went out. But we're back. Can you hear me? Okay. All right. Perfect, guys. Okay. So, all right. So that's what's up. Huh? You can't hear me now? They said okay. Guys, press 1 again. Can you hear me? I was getting some information. Okay, you can. Great. Absolutely. That's what's up. All right. So I finished, as you can see, that was book 2 of the Bible interpretations and explanation. That was talking about 6 ether. Next week, we're going to focus on 3 ether, right? So next week, we're going to book 3 talks about 3 ether, which is ghosts, the ghost forces. And we're going to address that subject matter. And so again, I want you guys to be aware. I hope I was able to address some of your questions and concerns just by going over this kind of information. Now, for anyone who has additional questions and concerns, or if you guys ask questions while I was going through the lesson. If you guys can actually reiterate some of those questions, I'm trying to look and see, and that way I can, go over it. Let's see. So who asked the question you said? Can you read his question for me? Mhm. Okay. I see Joseph. Okay. All right. So I see Joseph had a question. It's when I move this cord is my challenge. Huh? Because I need to. I have to get a different mic. Okay. So Joseph question is let's see. No one I've asked has given me an answer. I was in meditation for quite some time. Something asked me, why has it taken so long for me to contact it? What do you think it could have been? Okay. And then it says, my body turned into a liquid. It scared me so much. I haven't allowed myself to go that deep again. Looks like Nolene Frank kind of try to help you out. Divine self, your oversoul. More than likely, that could be your oversoul, or it can also be a Nathar. Because you're, or an actual direct ancestor, because they're trying to make contact with us. But we unfortunately lack the discipline and focus to really develop ourselves and get our morphic resonance to be able to communicate on that on their dimension, so that they can see us and communicate with us, so we can hear and see them. But because we're not used to it, now again, guys, this is according to the brother Joseph Franklin question, right? The challenge is, we're not used to it, and so it's happened to me. The fear, right? The fear happens because we're not used to this. We're not used to this, and we have to kind of recondition ourselves to be able to associate with the higher dimensions, because again, we haven't been taught. We have not been taught, and so the unknown fear, it scares us. But these are it's real. It's very real, and you have a higher self, a higher mind that you have to communicate with. Like, for instance, when it comes to the master teacher, right? His higher mind or his oversoul is Yanun. So you have his Malachi York, which is the human being, and you have Yanun, which is his oversoul, which is his higher mind. In fact, reading the Nine Ball, that was actually written by Yanun, not Dr. York. So, or Yanun was also identified as Amanubi Udo Okta. That's a higher, that's also a higher the higher spirit force of the master teacher. It sometimes it appears as distinct personalities. It's just your higher level of consciousness, and so it seems like a different being, but it's really, it's you. It's one and the same. You're the lower version of that higher being. We just have to learn to communicate with that higher being. You're on the right track. We can't move away from that. We have to dive in to developing ourselves spiritually to communicate. But that's the whole point. So for those individuals who are doing the spiritual work, you're on the right path, and you're proving what we're teaching. You're proving those who do these things prove what we've been teaching as actual fact. That's important. That's very important. And so I highly recommend you guys stay focused and vigilant. Is there any more? Okay, let's see. Oh, question from Hatshepsut. Okay, I see it. Okay, so let's see. I see another question from Hatshepsut Ma'at Urae. And let's see. Question: should I stop doing yoga then? There's a movement called Sun Salutations. It's done 3 times also. Other positions that represent animals. I thought it was a salute to the 3 great energies. One, I recommend yoga. We recommend yoga as a form of exercise. We recommend Tai Chi as a form of exercise. Those are extremely important exercises for our people to do, right? We do yoga and we do Tai Chi as an exercise to help with our blood circulation, to help with our breathing techniques. We don't do those practices from a spiritual point of view like the Hindus use it for. That's important. We do not do it from the spiritual point of view the way the Hindus, use it. So we do those we can practice yoga, we can practice Tai Chi from an exercise and physical fitness point of view because they're great for that. They help you develop your breathing techniques. Okay? So I highly recommend yoga, but not from the spiritual aspects of how the Hindus do it, but from the exercise point of it. So, I just want to keep that clear. So I hope that helps. And let's keep going. All right. Can you read it? That sounds like more like a statement. Oh, quick question. I see it. If they pass the law to teach us this, who gonna teach it? Levine? No. Okay. All right. Well, my little 4th grade teacher, editions were black and handed me a book with took one on the corner. What? Who? Somebody? Another question? Oh, question. Okay. So Hatshepsut Ma'at Urae question. When are we going to have our own grade schools, high schools? We need to develop a curriculum of what is important to our culture. That's something that we are working on. That's something I've been working on also is an actual curriculum, because one of my goals is to set up a cultural academy. We need a cultural academy. So, I mean, again, this is why we're having these discussions so that we can all get on the same frequency, the same mental to develop the 9 mind, right? Where we all can harmonize with each other. It's one of the reasons why I say, when I write in the chat for you guys to begin to talk and conversate, introduce yourselves, build relationships. That's the key. Relationships. We must get to know one another. We must start identifying with each other so we can begin to help one another, assist one another. Because you have the other brother asking about questions about economics, and we have to begin to set up protocols so we can assist each other economically, right? And to support each other in different goals and objectives, because we all probably are doing different business objectives, right? Or we have different skill sets, and we can assist one another. And so the key is to get to know each other in skill sets. That's important for us to start talking about what skill sets we have, so that we can begin to start networking with one another. That's why I asked you guys to kind of give your locations, and where you are in the information, and how you see the information. All of that is necessary information for all of you guys, for all of us, so that we can start building our relationships with one another. This is important. Why we have to get more people in this discussion. We got to get more people to participate in these group discussions. They asked that again. All the way down. Okay. Let's see. Oh, I said yoga. This is for Hapsha said my aunt with a hey, yoga is good as an exercise. I repeat, yoga is excellent as an exercise, because see, the key to yoga is breathing. Huh? Okay. The key to yoga is breathing. That, guys, remember that. So that's why I recommend yoga and I recommend Tai Chi. I do both. Yoga and I recommend Tai Chi, because it helps you develop your breathing techniques. Okay. Now we put a book out called The Breath Book. You guys must get that book. You must learn that book. You must practice the rituals in that book. You must master the breathing techniques. When you begin to develop your breathing techniques, that is what helps you tap into your own energy field. It teaches you how to tap into your own morphic field. This is how I learned to do it. Through using our breathing techniques, you learn to tap into your own morphic field. Okay. And once you can learn to control your energy field, you can learn how to raise your energy and lower your energy. This is very important in your spiritual development. So definitely look that book. It's on Scribes, the Breath Book that we put out, the master teacher put out. Okay. Okay, this is question from Iduma. I got to get the huh? Yeah. How do you pronounce it? His name? Oh yeah, Eddie Moth. I want to make sure I enunciate your name correctly, but he asked the question: what will happen if the master teacher does not get out of prison? Excellent question. What happens if the master teacher does not get out of prison? Okay. The purpose of the master teacher is to re-educate us back into right knowledge, right? The 9 knowledge, and back into our culture of Wu-Sabat. The purpose of the master teacher is to teach us how to reconnect with the Nathar. That's his whole purpose. Okay. Now, his goal was to raise 144,000 souls. If he was able to do that, that what happens is the masters themselves would come to physically pick those students up who have been resurrected, meaning you opened your third eye and became one with your oversoul. This was the goal of the master teacher, to raise 144,000 souls. Okay. And obviously he's been kidnapped and put where he's put to stop him from doing that, because the whole point of raising those souls was those individuals who resurrected were going to be taken by the masters, re-educated, and then they was going to come back to the earth to restore Ma'at. And the disagreeable ones are doing everything in their power to prevent that. So if the master teacher does not get out of prison, he still is our spiritual guide to make contact in the higher dimensions, so that you still can resurrect and to move up into the higher abodes. You know, now whether or not we can succeed in our initial mission, because if he fails to raise 144,000 souls, right, which is a lot, not a lot based on humanity, but a lot based on how many people really comprehend his doctrine. If that doesn't happen, it moves to the next cycle. And our people who are left on this planet have to wait for the next 24,000 year cycle to renew our story once again. And they will have another chance of being resurrected if we miss this opportunity to establish, righteousness on the planet. And so if we do not get the master teacher out and he does transition, you still have the ability to resurrect. That's always the possibility, but we lose the ability. There's no way we can take this planet without restoring our divine mind to bring back justice on the planet. We don't have the intellect to bring justice on the planet in the condition that we're in now. And even if you do open up your third eye and you resurrect and become one with your oversoul, you have to be educated on how to exist in that mental state. There's a training process. And so once you make contact with the masters, their job is to get you. They can, actually come pick you up and educate you and train you. And then our goal was to come back. So that's another very involved process to comprehend and to learn about that process. So that's important, guys. Yeah. Which one? What did he ask? Who's the ruler of this cycle? Okay. I asked another question. Who's the ruler of this cycle? Okay, that's that's an interesting question, Eddie Mouth. I'm not sure, what that means. The ruler of a first of all, the universe is controlled by non-ether forces, and it switched from the realm of NoopooH to the realm of Zupu, right? So you guys see that. Now there are beings who exist in the universe, right? Who are very advanced beings. And those, you have beings who represent NoopooH and you have beings who represent Zupu. Okay. So, that basically those are two ruling forces that exist throughout the universe. And they do have hierarchies. There are hierarchies within those beings. And so the non-ether beings control the universe. They're the ones who basically control. The 6 ether beings, don't rule the non-ether beings. So, I guess that's the best way to try to explain that. Okay. When you say, this is Allison, she said, when you say 6 ether mean zodiac, do you mean the zodiac that people label themselves on their birthday? Okay, so when you're talking about the zodiac stands for zoo. It stands for the animal kingdom, meaning the animal kingdom as you know it. Those species didn't come on the planet Earth. They only come on the planet Earth during the Zupal cycle. And so you have people who base their cultures around the the animal principles and natures of the animal. In fact, if you study the Asian Chinese culture, you'll see that their whole culture is based on the zodiac. So it's not so much when a person is born based on the zodiac, because that has to do with different star constellations. And different beings come from those star constellations, and some beings or ETs do look like animals when you meet them, and they represent certain spirit forces. So that's what we mean by zodiac. And so we as an African people, we did not deal with the animal teachings like that. Everything we dealt with was the forces of nature, and we dealt with the universal bodies and how those universal bodies affected solar systems and galaxies and universes. So when we dealt with universal bodies such as the suns and the planets that existed in those in a particular solar system or galaxy. And so our sciences were based around that. It wasn't based around the animal species that exist on certain planets. So I would the 6 ether sciences and 9 ether sciences are a little bit different. Let's see. Anything else? Okay. Okay. So that looks like most of you guys questions, and I hope that helped this discussion. Of course, we're going to pick it up again next week, right? And continue at part 3. And part 3 of the 9-ball series is going to be dealing with the ghosts, the ghost forces. One more question I see. Eddie Math question. Eddie Ma, I'm sorry. Why in ancient Egypt use snakes? I said before, dynastic Egypt dealt with the zodiac, right? Spirit forces, the animal forces, and so the Egyptian dynastic Egypt was a mix between nine Egypt, or between Wu-Sabat and 6 ether doctrine. It was a mix in the culture. And during the dynastic Egypt, they got the 9 ether. They got the for instance, the dynastic Egyptians got the 9 ether knowledge from the Tahites, from the Sands tribe, and pre-dynastic. The pre-dynastic, our ancestors who existed in pre-dynastic Egypt taught the dynastic Egyptians. Okay. And the little ones control pre-dynastic, but the tall Africans came in from Samaria, and they took over, and they brought in the zoomorphic teachings. So that's why you see a difference in the when they talk about the different animal forces during dynastic Egypt. Say that again. The scribe, just you go to go to Google, just Google scribe for Zamal. Just Google scribe, you'll see it, and you can subscribe to that, to that online channel. And a lot of the books are there, especially the breath book that I recommend you guys to get the breath book. And it's on that channel. Okay. So on that note, guys, I'm gonna transition out of here. And next week, like I said, next week I'll see you guys, and I hope we help. And until then, Wadu, we're gonna end it with a prayer system, namaz. Okay, and I'll see you guys. And until then. A dog cloud namasat will bazun naman kasam na fa pa pot. Anuki jawab pa ashuk im pa pot. Wu kala ashuk kawun jawab na ya. Anuki kasamun im pa pot. Wu pa pot kawun kasamun im na ya. Anuki wahu ama pa pot. Wu pa pot kawun wahu ama na ya. Nakuk kador naju ama kasamun im pa pot. Wu khabu ama shikasun. Nakuk kador kawan kala pafaf nakuk daya jawab pa pot. Ama wasu ama dayani kawun lake baku jawab pa pot. Anuki yababi nafasni. Pa pot kawun. Anuki. Pa pot kador. Nakuk kador. Pa pot amu. Nakuk amu. Lahahum manahnun. Layahum manahnun. Ahumata karahum. Ahumata karakum. Ahumata Koranun, Ahumata Jawefnaya, Ahumata Nayawu Anukihum, Ye Ashukure, Asmuya Jayenun, Ye Notaro Afuknun, Anunata Khara Ukum, Ye Notaro Afuknun, Akfuknun, Akfuknun, Ye Notaro Nun, Anun, Atun. Atun Amun Jedna 4. Why do you, sir?